Beach here. I get a lot of questions. People ask me, tell me more about your Jeep. And I like talking about my Jeep. So I'm going to tell you about it. I bought this thing in 2016. It was a totally stock unit, 1982 CJ7. It came out of Long Island. Some guy was daily driving this thing like 50 miles back and forth to work. But again, it didn't have big tires on it. It was totally stock, like you'd see right on the showroom floor. So I bought it in 2016 and I said, you know, I like this old Jeep. I'm just gonna drive it. I'm not gonna put big tires on it or anything. And that didn't last long, because shortly after that, somebody was like, hey, I'll sell you this set of big axles. And I go, oh boy, I got a big set of 37 sitting somewhere. I probably could put those on it. So then, you know, it spent a whole winter at my buddy's shop, jacked up in the air, ripped out all the suspension, all the axles underneath it, and we started going through it. We put a 14-bolt rear axle out of a 1980 Chevy K20. It's a full floater. It's one of the strongest one-ton rear axles that you can get. Super reliable, super strong, pretty sought after. Put disc brakes on the back so it stops real good. The front is a Chevy 10-bolt out of the same truck. When I got these axles, I was really hoping it was going to be a Dana 44. It's not. Fortunately, 10-bolt's pretty strong, and the outer components share a lot of stuff with a Dana 44. So your hubs, your brakes, outer axle shafts, stuff like that, bearings, are the same from a Dana 44 to a 10-bolt. Doesn't matter what it came off of, you can use it. Makes hunting down parts real easy. The 10-bolt front axle is basically what would come in the back of a half-ton truck, but they flip it around, they put steerable knuckles on it. So finding parts for that's not hard. I just had a set of 5.38 to 1 ring and pinions put in this thing. Very easy to find, no big deal. A friend of mine has a shop, put them in, wasn't too big of an issue. Let's say more about this thing. It has a 258 cubic inch AMC straight six, and it made like maybe 95 horsepower when it was new. So it's gutless. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's slow. It's carbureted. That's pretty old school. Under the hood, we've swapped the ignition to something off like a newer V6 Chevy car, HEI distributor. Some of you guys might not know what HEI is, but they're pretty good. They work well. Chevy used them for a long time. They were a good ignition system. Onto the suspension. This thing has kind of got a hodgepodge of junkyard parts. I didn't go and just order a lift kit like a lot of people do. They make lift kits for this, but for what I was doing, it wasn't really going to work for me. The front leaf springs are out of a 1990 Jeep Wagoneer. I took one of the leaves out of it. I took the pack apart, took one of the leaves out, made it a little bit softer, ride a little lower. And now the reason I went with the Wagoneer leaf springs is the center pin is offset. So the center pin is what locates your axle and defines where the axle is going to ride on that leaf spring. The Wagoneer has it 2 inches to the front. So I was able to move my front axle 2 inches farther forward, and you can kind of tell by looking at it, it looks a little bit stretched out. So that axle was able to move a little bit farther forward. It helps when you're going down a hill, makes it a little more stable. In the back, the leaf springs on this are out of a 1985 Toyota pickup. It was actually called a Toyota pickup. Thought that was a weird name for it, but it is Toyota pickup, or later it kind of became the Tacoma. So the reason I use these, they're very soft spring rate. You get a lot of travel without a lot of weight on them. They move really easily. It also has a 5-inch offset pin. I was able to push that rear axle 5 inches to the back, which gives it a lot more longer wheelbase, allows me to climb steeper stuff without toppling over backwards. Problem is now that axle is where the fuel tank used to be. So inside I've got a 15-gallon aluminum fuel cell where my back seat was. Kind of stinks, I don't have a back seat. Kind of takes up a lot of real estate back there, so I might eventually make something that still fits under the floor of the Jeep, but is able to accommodate that rear axle. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? Oh, the tires are 37-inch pit bull rockers. I just got these last year. They are pretty good. A lot of people don't like them. I love them, but I ran some pretty junk, dry rotted tires before, so probably anything's better than those. Let's see. Oh, I did a whole body swap on this because the original factory body just rotted apart. It's a 1982. The winter was not nice to it. So this body is off a 1989 or 1990 Wrangler. Maybe you didn't know this or not, but the Wrangler and the CJ7, the first generation Wrangler, I should say, the YJ, square headlights, and the CJ7, the bodies were pretty close. A couple of the body mounts are a little different where they mount to the frame, but for the most part, they're identical. You can't really tell the difference other than there's no fuel fill on the back of this one. Not that big of a deal. You know, like again, the fuel cell is inside. Going on to some other stuff, I made these rock sliders. They're just 2x4 cheap Chinese steel out of a shipping container that somebody gave me. The seats are out of I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s Dodge van. Again, something somebody gave me. They're pretty comfy. They're vinyl. If you wipe the mud off them, no big deal. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, 4-speed transmission. It also has a Dana 300 transfer case, which is a pretty stout unit. It's cast iron, gear to gear, meaning there's no chain or anything in there. Everything's very strong. They're pretty popular. In fact, you might have heard people talk about an Atlas transfer case. An Atlas transfer case was designed around a Dana 300. They kind of took the layout and design of that, and they designed their aftermarket transfer cases after a Dana 300. So it has that. Unfortunately, it doesn't have super low gears, although there's a kit to fix that. It's expensive. Probably going to do it one day, but stay tuned for that. What else can I tell you? This thing has almost 300,000 miles on it. I don't know who would drive one of these things 300,000 miles, but God bless them, because it's not the most comfy ride. Other than that, there's not a whole lot more I can tell you about it, other than I got a lot of junkyard stuff hodgepodge together, and it works pretty good. It's cheap. I wheel with a lot of guys that have a lot of high dollar expensive rigs, and that's okay. Don't let anybody ever tell you how to spend your money. If you want to spend your money that way, do it. If you want to spend your money this way, do it. Don't let anybody tell you what you should do with your money that you work for. So, that being said, get out there. Sometimes you hear guys say, oh, once I get this done, I'll be able to go wheeling. Once I get that done, I'll be able to go out. Don't worry about it. Just go out and have fun. This, how many times I've gone out with this thing before I had lockers, it was open differentials and not low enough gearing, and I drove it like this for years. Struggling everywhere, but I had a blast. It was a good time. And you should do the same thing. Don't put yourself in a position where you're like, well, once I get this, I'll be good enough. No, you're always good enough. Get out there and wheel. Have a good time. You know, don't get it right, just get it running. David Freiberger said that once. Another one of my idols. Smart man. Don't get it right, just get it running. Anyway, guys, wash your hands. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and just have fun out there, all right?